So everybody asked me, how do I use my magic? Here's how I did it. Ever since my awakening in 2012, I have started to see angel numbers. In the beginning, it was all the numbers, and it was so much fun. Every time I would see a 1888 number, I would get excited, even though that's pretty much commonplace. I hadn't noticed them prior to my awakening. Then as I learned about manifestation, I started to recognize the numbers that were coming to me were evidence of the thing that I was manifesting. So if I was calling in love, I would see 222 everywhere for usually a couple of years before that would finally materialize in my life. Then it was time to make a change in my career and time to make a move out of state. And so I would see 555 for many, many days and months and years, sometimes multiple times a day. And then it came to fruition and that number sort of faded away. Then I was calling in abundance and my life purpose, and I would see 888 everywhere, multiple times a day for many years. And then it came to fruition and I was starting to see a pattern. And that's when something unique started to happen. I started to see numbers that were specific to me. I would see 838 or 833 or 388 or 883 or some sort of variation of eights and threes. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out, what does this mean? I would search the meaning and look at different ones, and nothing really resonated as true for me until finally one day I read a description that made everything click. I had that aha, this is what they're trying to tell me moment. And the meaning of those numbers is to learn to use your magic. And when I read that meaning, I knew that was what they had been trying to say all along. But I did not understand how to use my magic. What does that even mean? And as with most numbers, they kept coming for years, and I kept asking for guidance on, what does this mean? How do I learn to use my magic? I learned to start to ask intelligent questions and ask for the guidance on how to learn to use the creative capacity, our God-given ability to manifest and create, otherwise known as using your magic. It was a long process of figuring it out, but I finally got there, and I'm here to share it with you today. My first step was to get clear on my intentions and to ask for what it was that I desired, allowing myself to trust the guidance of the desires of my heart. You've heard the phrase, ask and ye shall receive. It does require our asking. We have to be willing to use our words. In the beginning was the word. This is the initial point of our creation. Clarity of intention was really important. Yes, I could say I want love, I want abundance, I want purpose, but what does that look like? What does my purpose look like? Feeling into the feeling and getting really clear on the emotions. Yes, you could say I want abundance, but $1 million doesn't really explain the fact that I wanted freedom. I wanted impact. I wanted to make a difference in the world. Like, I want to create networks of schools and trauma healing centers. That's very different than just, I want abundance. So get really clear. I utilized visioning, vision boards, meditation, really feeling into the state in my being that it felt like when I had or would accomplish the thing that I had set out to do. My next step was taking action towards the visions that I had created, taking steps towards creating the emotions that I knew I was desiring to feel and to live in. And for me, that looked like a little bit of upheaval initially. I had to quit my corporate job and file for divorce and move out on my own all at the exact same time, which was extremely risky and very scary. But at the same time, I was finding extreme levels of support and divine guidance. I started my YouTube channel. I started coaching. Gifts started to come online, and I was able to help people. And so there was the evidence of the support that I was moving in the right direction towards my dreams. And even though the evidence of the support was there, the fears were also there, and those were driven by unhealed wounds. This is the tricky part about using your magic that not many people talk about, is shadow work is required, going into the old wounds and the blocks that prevent us from moving towards our purpose and really fully expanding into our power and utilizing the full capacity of our creative abilities or our magic. No matter how clear I was on my vision, there were times where I still felt blocked and I still got triggered and I couldn't figure out what was holding me back. It was keeping me from expanding into my true potential and the full capacity of my creative abilities that I knew was possible. I had to face my greatest fears. If there was a fear of not having enough money, sure enough, I was going to run out and have to face that fear. I also had to understand my trauma responses, things that I thought were personality traits or characteristics of who I naturally was. They were actually trauma responses and not aligned to my original design, not part of my true authentic nature. I initially thought I'm passive, easygoing, easy to get along with, but come to find out that was people pleasing. Those moments where I would say, sure, go ahead and do that thing that I actually don't want you to do, that was fawning. And my type A high achieving personality, that was actually hypervigilance. I had always prided myself on being very independent, but come to find out hyper-independence is also a trauma response. And the hardest one of them all to accept was my sensitivity. I'm an empath, I'm sensitive. And yes, this is true, and it can be true from birth for some people who have not experienced trauma, but it is also very common amongst us who have experienced trauma. And that high sensitivity was actually a roadblock, and I hadn't learned how to turn it into a superpower until I was willing to go through the shadow work and the trauma healing. And as we all know, we don't manifest what we desire, we manifest what we deserve or what we think we deserve based on who we are. So ultimately, redefining our identity through shadow work and healing, that requires that we redefine how we identify ourselves so that we can fully step into our creative capacity. Initially, when I started down this journey, I had thought of myself as subconsciously unworthy or less than. I didn't know that though. It was hiding in my blind spot. I would have told you all day long, I'm worthy. But what I didn't realize was that was me wanting to say that in my intelligent brain instead of me truly believing that in my subconscious brain and embodying, moving through life as if I believed that. So that healing work allowed me to see myself the way I do now, a child of the creator of the universe, the most favored creation. You see, if you are alive and breathing, you are worthy simply because you exist. You could not be more worthy because you are a child of the creator of the universe. And of course, in that process of redefining my identity, I had to look at the yeah buts. Yeah, but I've been divorced twice. Yeah, but I'm in my mid-40s and trying to start over. Yeah, but I failed at my first attempt to starting a business. I had to really look at how did I define myself and how was I going to find new, more resourceful perspectives. Instead of just someone who's been divorced twice, I am breaking generational curses, and my daughters will find a man who is good to them the way that I know I deserve and they deserve. Failing at my first attempt in business actually meant that I failed early and I failed often so I could fail forward. And I was not going to carry those mistakes into my second business, which is why we're here today. The next step in learning to use your magic is understanding the nervous system. I did not understand how the unhealed trauma caused me to live in things like hypervigilance or people pleasing, which is a very much activated nervous system state. And so if we're in our activated nervous system state, it is a very masculine, resistant, blocking state versus our healed state of the nervous system is also associated with healing, growth, repair, rest, and digest. Notice growth and repair are in there. So we are not able to grow into the new version of ourselves if we are in that activated nervous system state. The rested nervous system state is also very feminine, which means it's magnetic, receptive, and allowing. So in order for us to use our magic, we can't be in a forceful state of being. We can't be in that masculine, resistant state of being. We have to be in full knowing of our power and our authority and our oneness with our creator so that we can open to receive what we send out with our words must be able to come back to us through our ability to be receptive. I also discovered something called source tapping. We have all heard the phrase, I think, therefore I am, which is a very dangerous statement, but we now know that living in our head is part of the problem. The veil, the separation, the illusion comes from thought and perspective. So the opposite of that is getting into the body. If you're familiar with Gregg Braden, he has helped us understand that the codes in our DNA actually spell out God eternal within the body. The body is a beautiful vessel and discernment tool. And so we can tap into source guidance by getting into the body. And when we're able to understand the signals from the body, we can start to understand what frequencies or vibrations we are sending out, which will also help us understand what we are drawing in. God is constantly speaking to us through our body and helping us understand the intricate and minute variations of our frequency and our vibration that might get us just a little bit off path. Utilizing the body is critical to being able to understand, have I moved just a little too far left or just a little too far right? And the beauty is, just like when you are balancing in tree pose, you're going to move a little left and a little right, but we need source tapping into the body to be able to feel into, have I gotten just a little bit off center, and how do I get back? When we tap into the innate healing ability of our body, we are able to heal and remove those blocks and those old traumas that live in us and that keep us from using our magic, but also move closer to our dreams and our manifestations. And this is how I was able to receive the gift of trauma spotting through source tapping. My intuition blew up. I never imagined the gift that I would receive to be able to give and offer to others. By the way, I do offer free 30-minute sessions. There's a link below. But this was the stage in my life where I became fully source-led. I was no longer blocking and pushing out the sensitivity or the intuition or the guidance or the things that I had to do to draw in that abundance, because I was healed and I knew that I was one with my creator, and therefore at this point, almost nothing is off limits. The sky isn't even the limit. So from there, the hard work is done. The remainder is pretty easy, but still easier said than done. Vibration management. It requires moment-to-moment maintenance. We want to notice when we have moved to the lower end of the spectrum and why, and how to move through that, not just ignoring it and forcing ourselves to only be in the positive vibration, because everything that comes to us is calling for our attention to, again, help remove the blocks that keep us from utilizing our creative capacity and our magic. Yes, a high vibration is amazing. When we feel good, we want to anchor that in. We want to really be with it in our body and expand it and let it grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger, because that is drawing the good things to us. But we also want to acknowledge and embrace and love and accept and receive and move through those lower frequencies and vibrations. Learning how to go inward and say, what is this? How old are you? How long have you been here? What do you need? How can I love on you? How can I meet that need? What is the limiting belief that we decided in that moment from that experience? And how do we tap into the source tapping in the body to find the resonance of new belief, tap into new, positive, expansive, exponential growth? And at this stage, it will require that we ask for proper perspective. Course in Miracles says that a miracle is just a shift in perspective. So many times the things that are keeping us from using our magic are old limiting perspectives or beliefs. We want to start to notice, if I see a couple in love, that is not evidence of my not having it. That's something called driftwood. When people were lost at sea, they would get excited when they saw wood floating in the water, because wood requires land. And so driftwood was a sign of hope that land is nearby. Land ahoy. So instead of looking at that couple and saying, why don't I have that? For me, they're so lucky, I never get mine. We want to say, yes, and please, more. Thank you. Yes, I would love love in my life. Thank you. See it as the evidence that something good is coming. This or something better. And usually it is something better. And finally, naive and relentless optimism, almost to the point of being stubborn. Know that it will come. There is a certain amount of time that is required dependent on how close you are to the thing you are asking for. So if you are asking to become a completely different person and to have a completely different life, then it's going to take time for you to adjust and adapt to become that person. Over time, you will eventually achieve that, so long as you don't give up and you continue to insist it is coming, it will come. And this is where we feel it, we know it, we see it, we live as if. And in the meantime, while we wait, we cultivate an intimate relationship with our Creator, because that source tapping, that listening to God in the body, listening to the guidance, being source-led, saying, do you want me to go left or do you want me to go right? In those moments of waiting, this is where we're actually becoming who we need to be a match to receive the things we have used our magic to create. So if you're ready to learn to use your magic, reach out for a free 30-minute session today, linked below. And remember, it's time to trust the guidance of the desires of your heart. You are perfectly imperfect for your purpose. The world needs that special gift that only you can offer. And learning to use your magic will help you step into your purpose so that you can become the person you know you were made to be and offer your gifts to the world. It's your time. Let me show you how.